As a botanist, I've spent years studying how things thrive, from the soil to the air to the nutrients required for growth to occur. With my degree, I've also learned that a plant doesn't grow by straining, it grows by being rooted in the right environment. Several years ago, the right environment was something, well, almost toxic to me. I beg, it was toxic. A people pleaser to the core, a good girl, quote and unquote, a person who carried everyone on her shoulders, and a constant fixer, as per Mother Teresa now. But now, the right environment has become an emotion that is so profound. You would even think it's not there. Peace. So today, we are masking a different type of maturity that becomes activated when the emotion and your boundaries are merged in harmony. This is the final episode of the season. Yay! Thank God. Hang on tight. I'm Kosi Okechukwu, and welcome to All the Little Things. So, hi guys. In this episode, titled Peace, a Redefinition of Growth, like I have introduced, I want to talk on different aspects of what peace is, because I think oftentimes society teaches us that growth is a climb, but I think that for me, true maturity is often a surrender to peace. But you might ask, what is peace? Because I think a lot of times we, as young adults, becoming adults, people that have worked a little bit into, the work life or the workforce, right? We do not understand what peace is. Sometimes we think, oh, peace is, just going home and lying down. Well, you can actually define that as peace. But I think if you do not have internal peace, if you do not even know what internal peace is, then you can never define it, right? You can never say that you have attained that level of peace, right? And I think that sometimes, or rather from my experience, because this is a solo episode, so I'm going to speak from my experiences. From my experience, I actually think that peace, that the main peace, right, that people ask for is actually gotten from when you experience a particular emotion, right? I think it's something that there has to be a catalyst before you experience peace fully, authentically, right? I think that a lot of times many people out there think that, oh, I'm experiencing peace, but is it really peace, or maybe they're just choosing to avoid the pain that comes with the growth? Because for you to attain peace, there must be growth. The growth is the catalyst. Or I would not really say the catalyst. I would say growth is one of the things that happens after the catalyst has occurred, right? Or after the catalyst has taken its course, right? And I think that one of the catalysts, like in my case, the catalyst for that growth to occur, for me to find peace, was grief, like I have talked about in my third episode, A Battle with Grief, right? And I said, it wasn't until I felt that pain fully, wholly, completely, right, that I was able to get peace. And I think that was when I realized, I have to make peace a topic of conversation, because it really encompasses my entire identity, right? It encompasses what I have felt for the past couple of years. And it also encompasses how I've been able to handle several things that have come my way, whether it's in terms of friendships, in terms of platonic or romantic relationships, in terms of family, even in terms of even strangers that I do not know, even in my workplace, right? It has helped me to shape the dynamics on the kind of people that I see, or the kind of interactions that I have. When you go through that phase of life, right? When you are able to go through that phase of life as a person, and you pass through an emotion that becomes a catalyst for your growth, essentially, that is when you achieve peace. So stay for more. I will break this down into several segments. Please just stay for more. So we're back again, and I want to talk about the dormancy period, because oftentimes I think as we grow, we don't really realize a lot of things that happens to us, right? And I think that there comes a time where we meet certain people in our lives and we're like, oh my God, I have peace. But is that really peace? Or you just found somebody that has not really processed themselves. Maybe the person is just an introverted person normally. And in your mind, you're like, I found a peaceful person, whether it's a friend or whatever, relationship you have with that person, right? But I want us to look at peace from, a concept of dormancy, right? Take, for instance, my botany degree, right? I think I was able to realize something from my botany degree, and it wasn't until I was able to process my emotions, right, that I was able to really fully understand, why that period in my life happened in relation to my course, right? I realized that there are some times when there are plants that, don't bloom every year, right? They don't bloom every year. They just require seasons of rest to survive. Like they hibernate, right? It's just like every living human being. We hibernate sometimes. Now that I actually think about it, I think 2022 or 2023 was actually my year of hibernation. But anyway, but I think that hibernation is actually the universe's way, or God's way, of kind of like making you sit still, to internalize some certain things about yourself, to kind of discover yourself anew, right? Because it's only when you are able to be dormant and you're like, okay, that you're able to process a lot of things that go on. It's the same thing that happens with botany, with plants, right? They are still. It's not like they are not breathing or living. They are, but they are not fully or wholly complete, if it makes sense, right? In that stage. And I think that we as human beings, we should be able to have those periods of dormancy. We should be able to say, okay, I need to breathe. I need to be able to think about my emotions. And I think a lot of times a lot of people don't like that dormancy period, if I'm being honest with you, because it's like a mirror to them, right? And a lot of people are not really comfortable with that mirror. I used to have a saying when I was younger. I would always be like, every time, it's a quote, right? So listen quite carefully. Every time has a season, and every season has an hour, and every hour has a minute, and every minute has a second. I would always quote that in my head when I was younger. And it wasn't even something that I felt made a lot of sense to me at the time. But I would always quote it then. I would always say it at the back of my mind. And it wasn't until I had gone through the things I had gone through, my dormancy period, having to fight the battles I did, having to get to that point of peace, that I realized, oh my God, this is real. This is so real, because you need to process everything Everything has a season. If you're grieving, it has a season. If you're in love, it has a season. If you're happy, it has a season. Anger has a season. You're being able to achieve some certain things, it has a season. Everybody has their season. It's just like with marriage. Let me use marriage for instance, right? Oftentimes a lot of people veer towards, oh, I want to get married. But I've come to realize during this past couple of years that everybody has their own season, their own time, their own era, right? And everybody has their own dormancy period. As a woman or as a man, as a young man, you have your own dormancy period, right? The period of girl A, blooming is not the same period that you bloom for girl B or girl C or girl F or Z, right? It's not the same. It's not the same thing. And I think that we oftentimes expect that we should bloom, with others when it's not really our time, when we've not even fought the battle to achieve the level of peace that we deserve or that we desire. Because peace comes with clarity. That is the reality. Right? If you are not at a point in your life where you have attained a level of peace that brings you clarity, then you cannot make decisions. Your decisions cannot come with choosing yourself. Your decision cannot come with setting boundaries for yourself, right? And this is why I think that dormancy period is so important, because you're able to understand yourself afresh. You're able to say, it's like, I think dormancy, how would I explain it in terms of season? We have two seasons in Nigeria, the rainy season and the dry season. What season now will I use to explain it? I would not really say, is it the rainy season? I think it's more of the rainy season, because I think at that time, a lot of people go indoors, we hibernate. That's what I would describe as hibernation for us in Nigeria. But if you are listening from outside the country, I think it's more of the winter period, because it's cold, it's damp, everywhere it's not really, the same thing for Nigeria here in the rainy season, right? It's cold, it's messy, you don't want to go outside, so you're indoors always, except you have to go to work like me. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you get the drift at the end of the day. But that is the reality, right, of a dormancy period. And I think that when that period occurs, it allows you to be able to process a part of yourself you didn't even know existed. I think that we as living organisms, we sometimes think that we know ourselves, but we don't. Nobody knows themselves completely. And your dormancy period encourages you to find out more about yourself. You're able to learn things about yourself that you didn't even know was existing. You're able to find new things about yourself that you didn't know was even possible to begin with, right? So I think that is the essence of dormancy. And also, I also want to ask, I ask myself sometimes, why should we reject the guilt associated with seasons where we aren't producing for our families or our friends or people that love us, or our careers, or even maybe you're starting out a brand? Why is that? Why do we reject that guilt, right? It takes growth to be able to get to that point of peace. It takes growth to be able to knock that guilt off, where we're like, okay, it's fine even if I'm not in this place at this moment in time, whether it's mentally, whether it's spiritually. It's fine if I'm not really at this place, even though I have a friend that's at this place. It's fine if I am not at this place mentally or emotionally or spiritually. And you should be able to be content with that. You shouldn't have any guilt about that. You shouldn't have any guilt of, oh, okay, this person in my family is doing better than me. Yeah, so what? Maybe it's not your time. It's not your season, right? And that's why the dormancy period is important, because you take rest in knowing that, okay, I am resting. I am building myself for so time. Right? And there's a peace that comes with that. And you cannot achieve that peace, like I will say again, you cannot achieve that peace until you have passed through an emotion that triggers you, that serves as a catalyst for you to get there. So yeah, stay tuned for the next segment. Welcome back, guys. So in this segment, I'll be discussing redefining the shiro, right? This is quite the segment, because I'm going to ask several questions, right? And one of the questions that I have in my mind is, moving past the scars as an identity that we have and the pride of being our family's or friends' shock absorber, right? Because in order for you to attain peace. And I always say this. Why do I say this? Because I have gone through my dormancy era. I have checked myself. I have, gone through all the processes of getting to my higher self, right? And I think I'm able to ask this question to you, the audience, because I see myself clearly for who I am now. And I always kind of ask, why are we people pleasers? A lot of people are people pleasers. And because they are people pleasers, it disrupts our entire framework, right? Because we don't even know who we are. We don't want people to leave. I used to be that person before. And I think I spoke about that on my episode, What is Love? I think that was the episode I talked about it. I used to be a people pleaser. I never wanted to let people go, right? I was this kind of person that always wanted to keep people around me. I would hold on. I would try to fight for them, quote and unquote. I always wanted to be this kind of person that people would see, maybe a good girl, a fixer. I was that kind of person. But at what cost? At what cost to my mental health? I never acknowledged that, the impact it had on my mental health, even when something was draining to me. And it was the same thing for past relationships I had, romantic relationships, where I would feel like the more I stayed, the more that meant I liked them or I was trying to fix things, right? And this was impacting strongly on my mental health. It was impacting strongly on my sense of self, my sense of worth, right? And I think that for me, being able to have a new identity that is not that, being able to have a new identity that is not, being people's shock absorber or being a people pleaser or being a fixer, it was new to me. I had to relearn that. I had to relearn prioritizing myself. I had to relearn prioritizing, my peace, my mental health. I had to see for myself that in order for me to be the kind of person I wanted, that would entail me cutting off people for my mental health, including family. It also meant me relearning myself, and in relearning myself, I found a new identity that fit me better, right? And that new identity did not really go very well for people that had been in my life for such a long time that didn't want to grow with me. So they were laid off the way they should, right? They were laid off. And I think that you should not feel any guilt, like I talked about in the previous episode, where sometimes you have guilt of saying, oh, I don't know how this person is going to feel if I let them go. Oh, you should let them go. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And I think that it's not something that you should struggle with or try to, fight for or try to keep at all costs. You shouldn't do that to yourself, right? A hard truth that I would tell people is that acknowledging that being a hero for everyone else doesn't mean that you're a villain to your own mental health, right? You shouldn't be a hero to everybody else and be a villain to yourself. It doesn't make any sense. It's not. And I think that oftentimes we do that. Society teaches us to do that, especially us that are women, because I discovered most of my demographics listening to this podcast are women, right? So we shouldn't. Why do we feel that way? Why does society make us feel that way? Like we should feel you should treat everybody nicely, even if it's at the cost or detriment of your own mental health, even if it's at the cost of you being seen as being put in a small box when you're this large, vast ocean, and then somebody is putting you in this box, right? I'll give you an example. I had an experience. It was a very funny experience. I had an experience recently of someone who had started talking to me and just went off. He didn't, he wasn't even, it was quiet, right? And I kind of realized the whole interaction between me and that person made me realize that he was the kind of person that wanted to put me in a really small box, and I was this vast ocean that was not. And I just, from my clarity, because I have the clarity now to see things as they are. I have the clarity now to be able to set boundaries. I have the clarity now to be able to let things go. I have the clarity now to seek and protect my peace rather than, fighting for something that is non-existent, right? And so I let him go. And it was such a funny thing because, it made me see him clearly for what he was. Right, and so I let him go for my own mental health and for my own peace, right? And I think that people should be able to do that more often. that, in a way, to me, I felt like that was a no, but in a very diplomatic way. It was a no, because I realized I know I will not be chasing this person to be in my life. I will not do that. It's a no, right? And I think that we should do that more often as women. We should be able to say no, whether you're at work, whether you are friends with somebody, whether platonic or romantic, whether it's family members. I started learning to say a lot of no's. Like, I will say no, N-O, no. Like, I don't want, in capital letter, I'm so sorry. If it's not for me, I will say no. I don't care if you have $1 billion in your account. If it's not for me, it's a no. It's simple, and it's not something that I'm even going to stress myself for. That's just the reality of what it is, right? And I think that when we do that as people, we learn to be able to find a spot in our lives where we can be ourselves authentically, fully, without anybody. And the reality of it is that the people that are for you are for you. No, for people that come into your life and don't want to stay. For me, it's like divine alignment. Let's be honest, right? Like, it's divine alignment. If you say no to people and those people cannot understand why you are setting a boundary or why you are saying no, or they cannot respect that and they have to leave your life, then so be it. They were never for you. So that's the reality. Yeah. So stay tuned for my next segment. Welcome back, guys. So in this segment, I want to talk about the legacy of loss and how that, like I have mentioned previously in my third episode, the battle with grief, of how grief in 2022, helped me to see clearly. And I remember I mentioned in the first segment of this episode, I said a particular emotion has to be responsible or has to act as the catalyst for growth, for you to attain peace that you deserve, right? And for me, that emotion was grief, right? It was ugly, it was messy, it was very bad, I had to go, I talked about it extensively, and I think you guys should go listen to it again. I talked about it extensively in that episode. It was really, really messy, right? But I was able to really grow from that, right? That became a catalyst for me. It became the major factor as to why I have attained this level of peace in my life, right? And I think that is so important for us to do as people, right? No matter where you are. So, for everybody, it might not exactly be grief that might be the catalyst. Some people, it might be heartbreak. Yeah, it might sound a little bit, but it's the truth, right? And I think that for some people, it might be heartbreak. It might be a loss of love. But I think most times it's actually loss in some ways. Whether you've lost somebody, maybe a loss of bond, not necessarily a loss through like death or something. Or maybe it's a loss of bond. Maybe you really loved somebody and it couldn't work out. And you sit in your dormancy era or your dormancy season, and you really have time to think about it. You really have time to go through your emotions, to feel it, to be vulnerable with yourself, to forgive yourself. That's another aspect, right? I think a lot of people don't forgive themselves, right? And you have to go through all of that emotion. You have to feel it, every bit of it, for you to be able to get to that point in your life where you feel the peace that you deserve. Otherwise, it's at the end of the day, like you're not even going to get anywhere. That's the reality of the whole situation. But I also think that realizing the little things, realizing that little things can only thrive in your soil of stillness, when you're still, that brings us back again to the dormancy period. When you're in your stillness, when you're indoors, when you're alone, maybe you've not been in a relationship for a long time, you're able to think about things, you're able to process it, you're able to say, okay, what do I need to change about myself? Which is another thing, right? I am awed by people that they are in a relationship, and before you know, when they go off a relationship, they enter another one instantly. And I'm like, you guys have not even given yourself the dormancy period to process the past relationship you just came out of, and so you're carrying a baggage you left with. It's crazy. But anyway, my dad's loss helped me to process things very clearly, and it helped me to see the world through a very different lens. It made me to see that in order for me to get to the point where I wanted to be, I had to be able to have that fully undiluted peace, right? It's only when you lose something, you have to lose something for you to experience growth that leads to peace. That is the crux of the matter, right? You cannot be a person that has not lost anything. And I think that sometimes a lot of people move through life till like they're 40, 50, then they lose something really vital and they're like, oh my God, then they go through that whole process of reinventing themselves. Is that what they call a midlife crisis? I don't know. I wouldn't know. I've not gotten to that stage yet. But I think that it's at that point they begin to look at life very differently. They form a new identity of themselves that might not really coincide with exactly who other people might look at them to be, if it makes any sense, right? And so I think that you have to lose something. In my case, it was lost through death, right? But I lost something, and that became a catalyst through my life, and it became a catalyst for me to be able to grow and then attain the level of peace that I have been able to attain. So I think that when we do that, it also comes with the little things that you begin to value life differently, right? You begin to spend more time with people, people that appreciate you, of course. You begin to look at life, you begin to plan yourself very well. Like, what kind of business will I like to go into? What kind of partnerships will I want to enter? What do I want for a partner? What do I want for a spouse? What do I want for the kind of family members that are around me? What impact are they making? Am I able to say no to even the friends that love me? Am I able to, if it's not comfortable for me or if it disrupts my peace of mind, am I able to go ahead or go outside of my box for people that go outside of their box for me? Is that comfortable for me? You begin to ask yourself those questions, and it becomes comfortable too for you because you have done the work of the discomfort to pass through all of that discomfort just to get to where you are. So yeah, I think that when we are able to do the work within ourselves, to pass through the dormancy period, to pass through all of those steps, and to encounter losing something that, in my opinion, is the most ultimate trigger for growth anywhere. Like, mark me anywhere. Sometimes I feel like whether is even heartbreak, like I said earlier, right? Heartbreak it's loss as well, but it's just loss of a bond and loss of connection, right? So whatever it is, whatever emotion that is a catalyst for you are able to grow through that. And I think that, yeah, when you do that and you come out at the other side of it, like I have come out at the other side of it, you feel better for it. So yeah, stay tuned for the next segment. When I look back at my life, I look at it from a lens of the past. I'm currently in the process of writing my book, my memoir, which is titled A Countess of Scars. And I've begun to go down memory lane, right? And in going down memory lane, I started to ask myself questions like, what did I think growth looked like, back when I was a child, for instance, or back when I was in school? And at this point in time, how does that differ from the peace I seek in my current life today as an adult, right? And I realized, it's because when I look back at, let's say, for instance, my primary school, the way I looked at growth was quite different. I looked at it from the lens of, I was just comfortable in my own skin, right? I was just going through life like a normal child would go through life. And then when I became a teenager, at that point in time, you start to catch feelings, you have your first crush. And I started to look at peace really, really differently and growth really, really differently at that time. Not as clearly as I look at it now, obviously, because I was still a little girl then, but it was very different from how I looked at it as a child. And then when I went to the university, it was very different as well. At least I thought, the university life or the campus environment will kind of change my perspective on growth in general, but it was not really like that. Looking at it now, I see that I processed things very differently when I was in school, and that kind of played out. The relationships I had been in, romantic relationships, for instance, I had been in, were in my university days, and I when I look back at it now, I'm like, oh my, I made so many mistakes. Like, I couldn't say no. a huge people pleaser to the core. I was a fixer. I was this kind of person that didn't have any boundaries for myself. They were constantly crossed, constantly disrespected, and not just for. And it wasn't just for, even my romantic relationships. It also involved normal friendships that I had, right, throughout different towns that, I had stayed in or I had passed through and met people there, right? And I discovered that it takes growth for you to evolve. And that evolution is what leads you to the peace you deserve. And if you've not, like I said, I'm able to think about it clearly now because I am at a point of clarity in my life where I am able to see things for what it is or what they are. I'm able to see people for who they are. I am able to see circumstances and phenomena for what they really are, right? So it's clear. Everything is really clear to me at this point in time. And so the question I want to leave with people or with you, the audience, is to ask yourself this question. How did you see yourself back then? And how do you think you've improved as a person or as people this past couple of years? And if you have not improved, or if you still feel like you have problems saying no, or you're still a people pleaser, or you're still this kind of person that doesn't have any boundaries, what can you do to improve yourself? How are you able to change that aspect of yourself? You should ask yourself those questions. You should ask yourself, okay, do I take a dormancy period? Do I take time to just stay away from people? Not that I will not interact with them, but to really assess what is going on in my mind, in my head, in my heart, in my soul, right? To really assess what it is about myself that I want to get right, what it is about myself that I want to find in order to attain the peace and clarity that I need, what it is about myself that I need to grow, I need to groom to be able to say, okay, I have reached a level of growth where I'm able to understand things clearly, right? Because we are talking about growth, redefining growth, right? And redefining growth also talks about not just peace, because peace is is like, for me, it was the first emotion that came back, right? For me, right? But it also involves the way you see love, right? The way you see happiness, the way you see even anger. Like for me, I don't even get angry at things like in a very volatile way anymore. I used to be that kind of person. Now that I look back when I was in the university, when I say volatile, I'm not the kind of person that would like lash out. I was very quiet about it, and I thought silence was kind of like a way of dealing with it. But I kind of realized that it wasn't me dealing with it, it was just me kind of running away from a mirror that was being put to my face, if it makes sense. Like, because when someone provokes you, it's kind of like a mirror being a mirror being put to your face, right? So you're just like angry and you lash out. You don't want to see that version of yourself, right? But now that I've worked on myself, I've been able to say, oh, I can look at myself very clearly and be like, no, you don't need to get angry in this manner, because this is not the version of yourself that is existing currently in this season, right? You don't need to. So there are other ways around it. And I think that it's a question that we should really ask ourselves. Yeah. Okay, so welcome back, guys. So I want us to look at peace and the redefinition of growth through the lens of creating something, right? And I want us to use the term sprouting, right? That's the term I would like to use, the botanical term sprouting. It's when new life comes out from a seed, right? Essentially. And I look at it like we all pass through, just like we pass through a season or phase of hibernation and not being sure of who we are, redefining ourselves, checking out for new pieces of ourselves that we have to piece it back together again. I also realized that is also the time that you can use to figure out what it is you really want in your life that could last you, that could become a legacy kind of build for you, right? And I think that most people don't really know how to do that. When they come out, they are a little bit hazy, they don't really know their left from their right, they're still trying to figure out life. But I think that sometimes we should, or rather most of the time, when we come out from that stage, we should focus more on what it is we want in the long run, not necessarily the small pleasures that you might have and discard at any time. Not that small pleasures are not good, you should be able to bask in small pleasures as well. But being able to say to yourself, okay, I am at this phase of my life, and this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be able to do. And for me, that phase came in 2025, thankfully, where I had gone through the healing, I had gone through the legacy of loss, I had gone through redefining myself again, finding joys in the little things. And I tried to ask myself questions like, what do I do with my life, right? I'm at this stage where I've sprouted, or rather I'm about to sprout. I'm a seed, right? Because now I'm a new life, right? What do I do with myself? How do I define myself? What will be the target in the next 10, 20, 50 years? Not just that I will live for myself, but also from the kids I will bring into this life. What do I want that to be, right? And I realized that in order for me to do that, I had to check inwards. I had to ask myself questions that sometimes were very, 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 very uncomfortable. Questions that were really, 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 really uncomfortable. And one of the things I found out was that when you ask yourself such questions, it also prompts growth in a way, right? Because now you have so many ideas in your head. You're a new person. You have so many ideas in your head. And mind you, these ideas that you have are not really ideas you would have had, like, let's say 10 years ago, right? Sometimes they might be similar, but maybe much more refined. Now, the kind of ideas you might have when you grow, when you come out of that hibernation stage, is not really the kind of, or aren't really the kinds of ideas you would have had remained unhealed or without any kind of catalyst to help you grow and find peace, right? And so last year in 2025, I think it was sometime around June. That's my birthday period. Rather birthday month, I rediscovered myself. I started to ask myself questions. I cried about it. I prayed about it. I asked questions upon questions on what I could actually do. What is something that will be a legacy, not just for me, but also for my kids? What is something I know I can sustain that is still comfortable for me, but it's still me at the end of the day, this new version of myself, that even if I change to other versions in future, or I upgrade to other versions in the future, it will still be in line with myself. And that was when I came up with my brand. I've talked so much on this podcast, and I think I have mentioned what I do with my brand, but I don't think I've ever mentioned the name of my brand. So the name of my brand is called Orchids and Oaks. Orchids, ORCHIDS, and Oaks, OAKS. So that's what it is. We're on Instagram, and I wanted to build something for myself. So I started to think to myself, and I don't think I've shied away from that. I've not shied away from the fact that I'm a botanist, or I have a botany degree. I've talked about this extensively. All right. And I started to ask myself, how can I combine what I have as a degree, as a passion, and as a current job in hospitality? How can I merge all of that together and build something for myself that will be long lasting? Because I realized that whether I like it or not, I liked the little things. I liked, just like the way I named this episode and this podcast, all the little things. I like the little things. I like the fact that I am able to create something. I like the fact that I'm able to craft things. I like the fact that I'm able to find joy and meaning and passion in creating things with my hands, right? And I started to think to myself, what do I do? Okay, I've gotten this beautiful name. And I started to think, and then I remembered an idea that I had sometime in my service year. I've spoken extensively also about my service year, and I figured I discovered that I had an idea during my service year, and that idea was to start up a smoothie place, right? Because I discovered that Nigeria has such a beautiful variety of botanicals, right? Whether it's dried herbs, spices, fruits, leaves. We have so much of it, and they're so nutritious and so valuable. And I started to think to myself, oh, you had this idea almost 10 years ago. Why don't you convert it to something else that is much more refined? And that was when my idea for starting up a tea business came up. Right now, here's the catch, because there's always a catch when you start something. And so I did a lot of research about it. I did a lot of extensive R&D, research and development. I did a lot of trying to figure out how to refine it to the best of my ability. And just when I was thinking, oh, I have my blends, I have my recipes, and then I came up with a hurdle. And the hurdle was that I needed to be able to get a NAFDAC certification for my blends, which is legal, which will be legal, which I do want. I want it to be legal, and it will give my brand a much better base, right? So I had to hold off for that. But that did not mean that tea was going to be my entire identity. I also wanted to also add other things like candles, scented botanical candles, and all whatnot. But currently, we will be launching with our botanical wax sachets, which will be the first brand, because I know this because I have browsed it, and there is no brand currently in Nigeria that makes botanical wax sachets. So we will be the first brand that will make botanical wax sachets, and that was what I came up with. I was like, oh, I can still do this, mix my blends and make something that's really, really fragrant, really, really luxurious, really, really authentic to the Nigerian market and Nigerian space. So that's what I came up with. And I think that when I look back now, I see that I'm doing it from a place of creative peace, right? When I craft my blends for my wax sachets, wax tablets, I feel at peace because I feel like, okay, this is my business, this is my brand. It might not be the biggest right now, but I know that with hard work, because I have found my peace, I have found the peace in knowing that I can create something that is authentically me. I can create it and I can sell it to people that also think like me, or maybe don't even think like me, maybe they just like it, right? I can sell it to people that also want to get peace, right? Or also feel like, oh, this person inspires me and I want to get products from her as well. I do intend, because it's my brand, I do intend to diversify into teas later and superfoods. But currently, what we're starting with is the herbal botanical wax sachets. So I hope that I will get a lot of patronage from you guys that are my listeners, and who knows, I might even drop a promo code at some point, maybe even do like a little bonus episode for you guys. So yeah. So back to what I was saying about the creative source of peace. So being able to find the little things, right? Being able to come out of hibernation and be like, oh, I found something that's authentically me, and move with that. I think it's so inspiring. Oh yes, before I forget, one of the reasons why this idea was triggered was because around the time I was crying and I was like, God, I don't know what to do. I'm so tired. What do I do that will make an impact in my life? And then I came across on Twitter, a story, right, of a guy. I can't even remember his name, but he said something about how he lost everything. Literally, he was doing very well in Lagos. He had gotten a space for his restaurant. He had envisioned everything, right? And then things started happening. He had some financial problems. Before one or two of his parents died. I can't remember the story exactly, but his longtime girlfriend that he even had a ring already kept for her, she left him. A lot of things happened at the same time. He had to borrow money. He was in debt. He was frustrated. He was angry all the time. And then he realized that stage of his life was like the stage to really process a lot of things. He was processing grief at that time. He was processing heartbreak at the same time. All of these were happening almost simultaneously, right? And he said at the end of the day, he was able to find himself again. He started to build himself again. He started to find confidence in himself again. And I think that when I look back now, it was one of the major triggers to make me realize, oh, wow, there are people like me out there. There are so many people like me out there that have not really figured themselves out, that are still maybe kind of like trying to figure out what life is all about and trying to restructure themselves. And years down the line, I think he said like 3-4 years down the line, I'm not so sure how many years it was again, but he said years down the line, he was able to find another space for a restaurant, and his business bloomed. He bloomed again. He became better, even at the initial business opportunity he wanted to start. And I think that sometimes it just tells you the story of how growth is what brings you peace. Now he's married. I think he said he was about to get married or something like that. Everything just started to work out again. And so I think that we should view it from that perspective. And also when you have gone through the hibernation, you should be able to sit in your quiet moment, right, and just be like, what can I do to give me this ultimate peace? What can I do? What can I put my hands into? Ask yourself that question. Go deeper within yourself. And sometimes it's not a question that people around you can answer. The only person that can answer it is you. Yes, you are the only person that can figure out yourself and be like, okay, this is something I'm passionate about. If maybe you're into furniture making, or maybe you're into IT, don't do things because people around you are doing it. Do things because it's what you want that gives you peace at the end of the day. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, keep at it, right? Keep at it, keep doing it, consistency, and you'll discover that at the end of the day, you make it. So yeah, that is my advice that I have for you on this segment. So yeah, I've always wanted to ask a question. Now, this segment is about reflections, right? How does peace translate to the different sectors of your life today, right? Like when you look at your life as a person, how is peace interpreted, right? For me, like I was talking about in my former episode, for me, peace translates in terms of creativity and in terms of making things that are authentically me. Oh yes, and I did forget to add, I do intend also to go into herbal soaps. Not now, maybe something that will lead to maybe a future expansion. But I do plan to make my brand a total botanical brand, right? Purely botanicals, like made purely from earth-based botanicals, like nature's best, right? So just so you know, and shampoos as well. So, but yeah, when I look at my life in terms of my creative brand, I feel at peace. I feel happy that I have made the right choice for myself. Even if I don't get a white collar job, I will be like, oh, I can make this, and I feel content with that. My biggest happiness is when I make my tea blends and someone takes them and they're like, oh my god, I felt so good, this is so nice, right? I can never forget when I went back home during the new year and I told my family, oh, this is what I've been working on for months. I kept it quiet to myself. I didn't tell anybody, right? So when I told them, I said, this is what I've been working on for the past couple of months. And they were like, oh, tease, that's a little bit unconventional. I was like, yeah, but this is what I want, this is what I like. And then I remember my mom was not really feeling so well at that point in time. And then I made her a hibiscus ginger tea, right? And she took it. And she was the first person to wake up. In fact, how I woke up that morning was because I overheard when she was telling my younger brother outside that I don't know what Kosi put in that tea, but it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And I felt really happy because I was able to say, yes, your creativity, your effort, your hard work has paid off. It's not, you might not sell it for $1,000 or 1,000 naira, but it's the little things that count. It's knowing that, yes, you were able to do something for yourself and it was able to give someone else a smile. So I think that is the peace that I feel from that growing, knowing that I was able to research. And just like this podcast too. When I started this podcast, I wasn't expecting to get 1,000 likes because I'm not like a known celebrity. I mean, I don't have anything wrong with, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a lot of people to listen to my podcast because I feel like I will reach as much people as I can, just like what I was talking about in the previous segment when I said the guy on Twitter, his story had kind of reached me in a way. I think that if my story is able to reach people and kind of change their perspective on growth or on peace or on love or whatever emotion it is that I've talked about during this series, it will be a comfort to me to know that. So I just want to be able to say that I am happy with where I am. I am at peace. I feel like the world is better. Like there are much more colors in this world currently now that I look at and I feel like, oh, the world is colorful, right? And along the way, I also pray that I meet somebody that's really, really nice and that understands the journey I've had to go through. Just like I wish you, the listeners, to find the people that would bring out the best in you. So yes, I am so grateful for this experience. I never said it. I think I should have done that in my first episode. This is my first time doing a podcast. I have never done a podcast before. I've had to script this myself. I've had to edit it. I've had to figure out how to record, edit, remove background noise, because there's a lot often. I've had to figure out how to do everything on my own, and it's been a real challenge, but at the same time it's also brought me a level of satisfaction and peace and happiness, and I feel that being able to share it with all of you has been one of the most fantastic experiences of my life, right? So I'm really, really happy with where I am and where I'm headed in my life. So yeah, so please guys, do not forget to follow my page on Instagram, and when my products start to drop, I will probably drop a coupon or a discount code for you to follow to buy my products. Thank you so much, guys. I'm so grateful once again that I was able to do this, and I hope to see you guys again if I have any future projects to work on. Thank you so much. Bye. Growth isn't always a new title, a bigger bank account, or another person saved. Sometimes growth is just a quiet house, a steady breath, a cup of sweet handmade strawberry herbal infusion, lavender scented botanical sachet, and the realization that you are enough exactly as you are. Blemishes, acne, and clumsiness combined. I'm Kosi Okechukwu, and I'm finally choosing peace. Thank you so much for following me on this journey. If you are at this point, congratulations. You've grown a little better. This is All the Little Things final episode. Thank you all. See you in the higher frequency. Bye.